start off with that.
I was disappointed. I expected more substance and more action. Democrats have provided the governor with $18 billion in budget solutions that would help address the fiscal crisis we're in right now. He vetoed those. What we really need is for this governor to come to the table and work to solve the problem at hand, not inject new issues into the negotiations. That's unfortunate because what that's going to do is prolong the crisis and mean that real Californians are going to be hurt.
The governor's approach was the appropriate one. We really can't address real state priorities until we have our budget settled. We need to do that. We need to do it urgently. Then we can move on to some other priorities. But we have to recall or keep in mind that the economy has not hit bottom, and we need to be open to additional solutions, perhaps for 9-10. But of overriding importance is settling the budget. It makes absolutely no sense to ask the taxpayers of the state of California to pay more in taxes, or heaven forbid for the federal government to bail us out of our problems if we're not willing to change the things that create the budget crises that we seem to experience every 5 or 6 years since 1990. We need reforms of government processes that force us to spend more money than we have to. You know, it's against state law for a school to contract out for janitorial service. A state law was passed to prevent that. We have far too much inflexibility with regard to categorical spending, fully a third of education spending. And every time when things get good again, if we don't have a cap on the amount that spending can grow at that time, we will again spend all of the money that's available to us so that when things drop off again, which they will, we've got no reserves or certainly inadequate reserves to take care of then that crisis again. We have to improve future budget processes as part of solving this one.
Well, basically, I was very disappointed with the speech today. It is not possible to separate fiscal from the vision of California. He came today to talk about the state of the state, but without a vision as to what the state of California should look like in the 21st global economy. I brought with me a symbol. 5 pairs of shoes to represent the 5 days of cuts that he is proposing in the school year for children in California. In a state of the state, a governor should address what the budget would indicate, what the budget would represent if we were to have a state that fully funded education, that provided for a longer school day. So I was very dissatisfied to just hear him basically talk about the money without talking about the vision for the reason why we collect those taxes in California.
Well, the governor, I think, wisely said that the legislature has been engaged in a state of civil war over these last few years, and I'd agree. But what he didn't say is that the losers in that civil war, very one-sided civil war, have been the taxpayers as government spending has grown amok, as our state budget deficit has grown by billions, and as regulations, job-killing regulations, have been driving businesses out of state. So, yeah, we've been engaged in a civil war, but I'm sorry to say as a Republican, it's not one that my side has gotten very many victories in.
Well, I thought the speech was a little underwhelming, and I think that the Assembly has shown, and the Senate, that we're willing to put a budget for it. I think that we have to have the votes, and so hopefully the governor will accept his own advice and work with us to move this quickly. We understand that California's in a lot of pain, and unless we're able to move forward, we are jeopardizing 2,000 projects and $5 billion in infrastructure, the flow of infrastructure dollars to our community. That's a lot of jobs and a lot of Californians impacted. So I agree that it is a state of emergency, but it's extremely important that the governor not just veto what we send up, but present something that could actually pass. And we will have a budget before June 15th. If we don't get our job done, then child care centers don't get paid, and senior citizens don't receive their checks, then we shouldn't receive our checks. And I think that's probably the sentiment of a number of people. But to applaud that line in this setting when we're the ones that are delaying a decision and the governor is not also agreed with us, even though we put a budget to him, is not appropriate. But of course, we're willing to sacrifice just as citizens are being asked to sacrifice.